Hey everyone, Cursed Deck Builder here, and we're making our way to 10,000 decks with a Shirei. Is it Shirei? I'm going to say Shirei Mono Black Aristocrats deck. Now, this is our second Mono Black Aristocrats deck. I would say maybe two in a row. So that's a little fun. So this deck comes to us from Jetto10, who says that their commander consistently gets removed and it is difficult to get out early. So let's take a look at this deck and see what we can do to help out with that. As always, the deck list will be in the YouTube video description below. I highly recommend you open it up yourself, take a look, and see what changes or ideas come to you. And if you think of something that I haven't said, comment below so we can all come together and help this deck improve. So Shirei, I hope that's right. Shirei is a very cool commander that I've thought about myself of building. 5 mana, 2/2 legendary spirit, though it looks like it should fly, it doesn't. And they say that whenever a creature with power 1 or less is put into your graveyard, on the next next end step, you're going to return it, but only if Shirei is already on the battle or still on the battlefield. If your commander gets removed, you do not get that ability, unfortunately. So this is kind of a delayed recursion deck where at the end of your turn, you are going to get back one or more creatures as long as you continue to keep your commander. Now, something interesting to me that I haven't thought of, but I think I've just answered in my head, so I'll vocalize it, is that so if you blink Shirei, does the trigger still resolve? And I want to say no, because it becomes it becomes a different card. Because right, every time we read the card's name, that translates to this card. It doesn't translate to every card with this name. It translates to this card. And in Magic, this card, quote unquote, only only applies for as long as it stays in one zone. The second it moves out of a zone for any reason, it's no longer, even though it's the same piece of cardboard, it no longer sees itself as the same card. This is why we see certain creatures or abilities that exile and keep track of the exile. Sometimes will use certain language to imply that you can still cast it or you can still do things as long as, like, think of when things are exiled with counters on them to mark them specifically, like Dothy Voidwalker would be the one. So Dothy Voidwalker says when cards are exiled, put in the graveyard, in your opponent's graveyard, exile it with a void counter, and then it keeps track of the void counters. And the reason that is that so this Voidwalker can see the exiled cards that other Voidwalkers have exiled. So let's see if there is. Yes, exactly. I'm glad I was right on the nose on that one. If they leave the battlefield and return, they are a new object. The delayed trigger won't return the creature to the battlefield. So this is really important when we think of the kind of ways we're going to make our commander more resilient, because as viewers of the channel know, my go-to answer to keeping black, using black to keep permanents in play or creatures in play, is feign death effects, where we let the creature die and then it immediately reanimates itself. So unfortunately, that's actually not on the table, which I'm happy with because that's going to make us look at different options. But because if we use feign death, Shirei is going to come back as a different object, it will no longer be able to trigger its ability. So let's come back to looking at options in a second. Let's do the next step we always do. Even though we're looking at something really specific, I do always want to take a look at the mana curve. I think the mana curve is really nice. The 7+ section is a little worrying to me. I can see there's only two, but I can see them here being Blood Money and Butcher of Malakir. I don't think that's too bad. I think in a having 1 or 2 7+ mana cards isn't bad in a deck like this at this power level. With the 6 mana one being Bolos the Citadel, I feel like they're all strong enough that I don't have particularly any bad feelings about them. Now, let's see our options for keeping our commander on the battlefield. Now we can see Armor of Shadows, and I would like to, and Professor's Warning. I'd like to first of all see if there's any other cards we can use with that ability. So let's go here, and let's write Indestructible. And let's put in Instant, because otherwise it's not particularly useful. All right, and let's sort by mana cost. Let's come back here, and I would check something. Okay, perfect. So we do only have 2 1-mana cards, and then we have to start going into 2-mana cards. So our 2-mana cards, if we are interested in going into them, which I think we should consider, there's Death Touch and Indestructible, Death Touch and Indestructible, Lifelink and Indestructible, um, just Indestructible and Extra Power. This one has Cycling, but only gives Indestructible, and then we're going to higher mana cost. I'm going to say I'm tempted to Without Weakness if we're going into the 2 mana ones. All the other cards have interesting aspects to them, but of course, the Death Touch doesn't particularly matter as our commander has. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. I thought it was a 0/1. Well, then Death Touch Indestructible is an option, but even then, I still particularly love Without Weakness because in a pinch, you can cycle it. And I think people underestimate how powerful that is. It's one of the reasons I really like Unearth. Its ability to just say, yeah, no, it's okay, I'll just be used as a cycle instead of my intended use is really nice when you need to pull, like, if you're going to lose the game because someone's going off, you need to be able to draw removal. This is one more chance to draw into that removal. If you are stuck on 2 lands, this is another chance to draw a card and hopefully draw into a land. So Without Weakness is particularly attractive to me. After that, I want to see Kaya's Ghost Form. Kaya's Ghost Form is another classic kind of keep your creature alive thing. Unfortunately, it does work like Feign Death effects, um, where it does leave play. But I still think one of these is fine. Kai's Ghost Form is still particularly good and works very well with a number of creatures here. I like this more than a single Feign Death effect because we don't have as many sacrifice outlets in this deck. We have a few, but we don't have as much. So I think I'd rather have the Feign Death of sorry the I'd rather have the Ghost Form effect that we can just drop onto something and keep it around and not have to kind of go too deep into it. After that, when I'm thinking after we pass indestructibility, what are our other options? Well, hexproof is our other option, but as some may note, it is not very easy to get hexproof in black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what our artifact options are for hexproof. Now, Mask of Avacyn comes to mind, but that is a little expensive. It is 3 mana to equip, which is more than I would like. This is 2 and 2 to equip, has hexproof, that's not bad. Ring of Evos has to be activated and you don't get the +1. Are we playing any of the boots? I don't know if the boots are particularly powerful here, to be honest. See, we are playing Darksteel Plate and Whisper Silk Cloak. Now, I don't particularly like these because I just think they're too expensive. They have such a high mana cost to play and to equip, but I am here suggesting similar cards. So at this point, maybe it's better just to keep those, but I wouldn't be against dropping in a Swiftfoot Boots or Lightning Greaves would be the other option. Shroud. Yeah. Yeah, Lightning Greaves would probably be the one that I would like here. There's not a lot of reason that haste is particularly good in this deck. You don't really have any creatures you want to immediately swing or tap with. with a few exceptions, being able to equip it to Tree of Perdition, or being able to tap down one of your, where did I see it? There we go. Priest of Forgotten Gods isn't nothing, but I don't know if it is the strongest thing in the world. So, what have we gone through? We've gone through Feign Deaths, we've gone through Auras that return, we've gone through Indestructible, we've gone through Hexproof and Shroud. Is there any other ways to keep our commander in play? In black? Not really. I'm trying to think. Is there phasing in black? There is, but I'm thinking of Oubliette, so let's look. Oop, let's put phases. Yeah, Oubliette is the only one that really comes to mind, so unfortunately that's not the strongest card. So we're kind of low on options, right? The next thought would be, and I see that our deck builders already thought about it, is you can just sacrifice Shirei and just say, you know what, I'll get some advantage out of it. I'm losing my commander, but at least I'll draw 2 cards, or at least I'll draw 2 cards and get a treasure token, which I particularly like to help me get back Shirei back out. So I do like that. I think I think another thing to consider is reanimation spells, but at 5 mana and at legendary, they get a little tricky. At that point, we are looking at cards just like Reanimate, Animate Dead. I think after that, 3 mana reanimation spells often just. I'm thinking of the one that cares about. Does it care about power or CMC? Let's see. Return target creature, battlefield. Most likely it's going to be a sorcery. And let's see if it cares about power. Because usually white cares about that, but I want to see if any black cards care about it. No, unfortunately, it doesn't. Ooh, that might be why, because it's a create and not creature. Nope, still nothing. See without power. All right, let's see if we have any options here that I particularly like. Let's go to mana value, see what's low. Persist is off the table, unfortunately. Unearth, though strong in the deck, won't bring back our commander. Stitch Together can be good here when you hit Threshold, but considering you're a reanimation deck, that might be a bit difficult to hit that threshold. This is what I was thinking of, but it is converted mana cost and not your it's not the power of toughness. Victimize is interesting to me. Are you playing Victimize? Sorceries? No. I would consider Victimize. Once again, if you lose your commander and you summon it again, you don't get the benefit. But this deck does care about sacrifice, and being able to turn 1 creature on the field into 2 creatures is pretty good. If you reanimate your commander, unfortunately, you won't see the first creature dying, so you won't get that benefit. But it is a good way to recover from a board clear, especially when you have weaker cards that you don't mind dying. All right. So those would be the general things I have to say on the resilience side. The other side is speed. They were saying commander consistently gets removed and difficult to get out early. So I'm going to have two things to say. The first thing I'm going to say is we do have options to speed it out. The classic is Dark Ritual, an incredibly playable card that you will always be happy to see, as it basically adds 2 black mana to your mana pool from the one you spend. And with that in mind, that means you can, just with Dark Ritual, power out your commander on turn 3. Alternatively, we can be playing ramp. I can see that you're not playing oh, all this time, I didn't see this half. That's on me. You're playing Mana Crypt. That's very interesting to me. All right, so Lightning Greaves, Mask of Avacyn, and Swiftfoot Boots are already in here. I'm happy to see them. Then Mirror Shield also. I think Mirror Shield is pushing it. I was thinking of adding these, like one of those. I think maybe you're running too many of these protection spells. because at a certain point, you're not going to be able to be moving forward. Instead, you're just going to be picking up your artifacts. But we are a little low on ramp, even with Mana Crypt, which once again feels very strong for this deck. I think things like Mind Stone, things like what is it? It is the no maximum hand size. And let's say add is Thought Vessel. Thought Vessel's fine here. You just basically want the 2 and adding 1. Charcoal Diamond is fine. I don't always love it because it comes in tapped, but it is completely serviceable in a deck like this. These cards will help you get to 5 sooner, and it'll help you recover when you lose your commander and need to cast it again. Okay. Beyond that, do I have suggestions? And I think I have a few suggestions. A few things that I feel like the deck is missing right now is I feel notably your card draw seems low. I'm looking at your card draw here that is based on you having creatures in play. I'm looking at enchantments, and you're not playing any of the classic black, like Dark Prophecy once again needs a creature in play. Vampiric Rites also needs a creature in play. Bolos Citadel is technically a draw magic when it is when you're casting off the top of your deck, but it's a little tricky. Golden Throne doesn't do that. Okay, I'm not familiar with that card. And looking around, Priest of Forgotten Gods definitely draws. Dusk's Legion Zealot replaces itself. Morbid Opportunist draws. Graveyard. Yeah, a lot of these are pretty much dependent on. Why is this here? Let's come back to this. A lot of these are dependent on having creatures, so I wouldn't mind if you had a few that weren't. The classics in black would be Side and Blood, especially when you are in mono black, which allows it to be a lot more castable. After that, Phyrexian Arena is a very nice once per turn. Read the Bones, I should be doing this in the other order, but Read the Bones is like Side and Blood, where you scry 2, draw 2, lose 2, which is really, really good. And the other one, um, Connections, Underworld Connections. There we go. Underworld Connections, which is another aura that will draw you 1 extra card per turn cycle if you choose, albeit being just a little worse because it does require you to tap down a land to do so. So I would recommend playing some number of those 4 because having card draw that's not connected to your aristocrat strategy is particularly strong here. That way, if you're running out of cards, you can just go ahead and get a few cards into hand. After that, I notice you're kind of low on interaction. This is once again, it's kind of similar to our last mono black deck. So I will say to an extent that if you feel that that I'm missing anything or you want some more ideas, I would go look at that Yawgmoth deck. It's very similar to your deck, so maybe if I make any suggestions there that I've forgotten to make here, it could be really helpful. But once again, from memory, Infernal Grasp is a good kind of card for direct removal. Innocent Blood effects, which are like Plague Crafters and creatures that come into play and sacrifice a creature. Though for you, since you're already playing one with Abyssal Gatekeeper and you need them to have 1 or less power, the list is kind of lower, and I think you could actually get away with just playing Innocent Blood because you wouldn't get the benefit of the bigger creatures anyways. And then you're already playing Grave Pact and Dictate of Erebos, so I think you're already in a really good position there to, once you start sacrificing or creatures start dying, the board is going to stay clear. So what is Gift of Doom? It gives indestructible. Okay, I see what that's important. Okay. Do I have any other thoughts? I wanted to take a look. Why is Mindless Automaton here? So it comes in with 2+1/+1 counters. You can pay 1, discard a card, and put 1. Oh, I see. Because it is. Okay. I was a little confused, but I understand why. What this card combos with Shirai because you remove both counters that it comes in with to draw a card. Mindless Automaton goes to the graveyard, and because it has 0 power, it will then at the end of turn return at the next end step, return allowing you to draw an additional card for each turn because its next end step, not your next end step, is when Shirai triggers. Okay, I do really like that. Mindless Automaton functions as a particularly good card here, so I take back my questioning. This is fantastic. With that in mind, is there anything else that I want? I feel like there's Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat. Okay, that's good. I feel like I would be amiss not to also suggest. Hmm. Why? Hmm. You know, 2 days in a row I remembered it, and now I don't. Counter. Sacrifice a counter. Carrion Feeder. My goodness. Carrion Feeder. Poor guy. He's crying over there. I never remember who he is. I like Plagued Riscala, but it having a cost on that sacrifice is a lot. It limits the amount of sacrifices you can do in a cycle, whereas something like Carrion Feeder just allows you to do it as many times as you want. And once Carrion Feeder is a 5/5, you're very happy to start swinging with it. Okay, I think that's generally what I have to say about this. I like the deck. I haven't talked about. There's a lot of directions that we can make more changes in, but at this point, I think my main thought is to answer your question on resiliency. Once again, I will recommend you take a look at the Yawgmoth Mono Black Aristocrats deck as well. I see you are playing Yawgmoth, so there is some things in common that you, some like lessons or ideas that you could take, and it's always good to like take inspiration from not just other people who are playing your commander. I think there's this EDH rec style thinking that commander players sometimes get into, where they hyper focus on their commander and they forget about the general strategy that they're running and how different commanders with the same strategy might be able to offer you ideas or gameplay lines that you might not have thought of. So I would recommend to take a look at that, see if there's anything in there that you can repurpose for your own commander. I hope this deck assist video was helpful to you. As always, if you have a second draft of this, please go ahead and put it in the video description below so I can take a look. If you have another deck you'd like me to see, you can also post it using the form in the video description below, and I'll take a look. If you can comment, like, subscribe, I'm always a big fan of that. The channel's still new and growing. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this is going, and I hope to see another draft of it. All right, good luck.